Welcome to the Harris County Flood Control District's virtual community engagement meeting to discuss the Smith Road Channel Diversion Project. This virtual community meeting is being offered by the Flood Control District to share vital information with the community and to gather your input on flood risk reduction efforts in your area. Community engagement is a critical component of our work, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. My name is Robert Fricke with the Flood Control District Communications Team. I'm joined tonight by a team of Flood Control District leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on important flood mitigation efforts. We are glad to see the community engage with this project and look forward to gathering your feedback tonight. Moving forward, we will continue to share updates on this and other projects in your area to keep you involved and informed. First, we would like to begin tonight's meeting with remarks from Harris County Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis.
Hi, I'm Rodney Ellis. On behalf of Harris County Precinct 1 and the Flood Control District, welcome to this informative meeting about significant flood control projects in your area. As always, we have you in mind when we design projects to mitigate flooding to protect your homes and businesses. We want to be transparent with all projects because we cannot do it without your participation. Every community, regardless of the zip code, deserves increased protection from flooding. That's why equity is our guiding principle in assigning our infrastructure investments. In addition, we're prioritizing communities that are most vulnerable to flooding and have historically taken the longest to recover. Let me thank flood control officials for developing this and other projects across Harris County. Most importantly, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to participate in this community meeting tonight. We know you could have been somewhere else doing something else, but we're glad you're here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Ellis. We appreciate your sharing remarks. This virtual public meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including an overview of the Smith Road Channel Diversion Project, timelines, and next steps. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with Flood Control District team members, who will respond to your questions and comment on some of the frequently asked questions we receive from the public. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website or by phone. Any comments not addressed during the Q&A session will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the close of the comment period. Instructions on how to participate in the virtual meeting are included on this slide, on this virtual meeting webpage, and on the Flood Control District's website. I will also share a reminder of these instructions when we reach the Q&A portion of the meeting. We will now transition to Melissa Meyer, Engineering Division Manager with the Flood Control District, who will share information about the Flood Control District and this project. Melissa, over to you.
Thank you, Robert, and a special thanks to each of you for joining us here tonight. In this presentation, we will give you a brief overview of the project. But before I get into project specifics, I'd like to share a bit of background information about the Flood Control District. The Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district created by the Texas legislature in 1937 in response to devastating floods that hit the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Flood Control District is governed by the Harris County Commissioners Court and works closely with other entities in our region, such as the Harris County Engineering Department, as well as the City of Houston. The organization was created in part to serve as a local partner to leverage federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. Our mission has expanded since our founding, leading to billions of dollars in federal, state, and locally funded infrastructure improvements in the ground. The mission of the Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with appropriate regards for community and natural values. One of the most difficult challenges we face is constructing effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in highly urbanized areas. Harris County includes 23 main watersheds, totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channel. 2,500 linear miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. Now, a watershed is a geographical region of land that drains to a common channel or outlet, and each watershed has its own characteristics and unique needs. The project we're presenting on tonight is in the Greens Bayou watershed, located in central and eastern Harris County. Harris County and our surrounding area is flood prone for a number of reasons. Namely, we experience rainfall events, including tropical storms and hurricanes. Our area is made up of flat, slow draining lands. And finally, we see large concentrations of clay soils that do not soak up excess rainfall quickly. While the Flood Control District plays a critical role in flood risk reduction, we are one of several entities involved in these efforts in our region. When rain falls on your roof, it flows through several jurisdictions, such as streets and drains managed by the Harris County Engineering Department, a municipal utility district, or a city, such as the city of Houston, before it flows into a larger channel, creek, or bayou that the Flood Control District owns and maintains. This slide illustrates the various jurisdictions, which sometimes we even share with other entities. Inside neighborhoods, as shown on the left side of this illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from homes and streets. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Flood Control District. And this is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle is a stormwater detention basin, sometimes constructed by the Flood Control District. When storm sewers on the left are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. And since it is our policy to avoid any adverse impacts from our projects, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store excess stormwater during heavy rain events. Often we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved $2.5 billion in bonds for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of 23 meetings with community members across Harris County, one per watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. As of August 25th, 2021, every project included on the 2018 bond program has been initiated, including the 11 projects in the Greens Bayou watershed. A total of more than $1.35 billion in partnership funding has been secured so far to stretch the 2018 bond program even further. The actual timing of each individual project will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocation, and in some cases, requirements of a particular grant. Project lists and project schedules are updated regularly on our website. While the bond was for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond table is almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the outset that we would need funding partners to fully construct the projects in the bond program. As I mentioned, we've had some successes so far, having secured more than $1.35 billion in partner funds for projects across Harris County. And this graphic illustrates the many sources of those partnerships, including federal, state, and local funding that the Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and its own requirements for local match funding. So the Flood Control District works diligently to match projects to the right partnership opportunities. We will now move on to the part of the program that is specifically about the Greens Bayou watershed and the Smith Road Channel Diversion Project. As a reminder, we are looking for your input as we discuss this project in more detail. Please feel to drop any questions or comments into the comment box or to comment via phone by pushing the star key. Here we have a map of the Greens Bayou watershed. As I mentioned earlier, a watershed is defined as all of the areas that contribute drainage to the main channel, which in this case is Greens Bayou. The upper reaches of Greens Bayou flow in an eastward direction, and the lower reach flows south into the Houston Ship Channel. The watershed covers about 212 square miles and 308 miles of open streams, including the primary streams and tributary channels. Flooding of homes and businesses along Greens Bayou and its tributaries has occurred numerous times in the last 30 years. Devastating flood levels surged throughout the watershed during Tropical Storm Allison in 2001 and in Hurricane Harvey in 2017. Significant floodplains and high-density developments have combined to cause high damages during even moderate flood events. This area was largely developed before our current understanding of flood mapping, meaning that many structures are within the floodplain. Additionally, the lower 10 miles of the watershed, which is generally the portion downstream of US 90, are tidally influenced. This means that water levels are influenced by the elevation of water in the ship channel. As such, storm surges can impact flooding levels in this portion of our area. When we look at Greens Bayou, we divide the watershed into 3 areas: Upper Greens Bayou, which is from Cutton Road to Veterans Memorial Drive; the mid-reach area of Greens Bayou, which is from Veterans Memorial Drive to JFK Boulevard; and Lower Greens Bayou, which is from JFK Boulevard to the confluence with the Houston Ship Channel. Each of these areas have their own flood mitigation strategies and visions. This project is located in Lower Greens portion of Greens Bayou, which is located from JFK Boulevard to the confluence with the Houston Ship Channel. As you can see on the map, this project is more specifically located in northern Harris County near the Fall Creek subdivision. Within this area, tributary P133 is a natural tributary of Greens Bayou, which flows through the Fall Creek subdivision before emptying into Greens Bayou. We often talk about our flood mitigation toolbox. These are the various techniques we typically deploy to reduce flooding. It's important to find the right type and right configuration for each project. Tonight's project focuses on channel diversions. Diversions are available when there is a location to divert floodwater that will not cause adverse impacts, which we will talk about in more depth soon. The purpose of this project is threefold. First, the project will reduce flood risk along Smith Road. Second, the project will reduce the potential for future erosion along tributary P133 by reducing flow within the channel. And last, but certainly not least, the project will improve drainage along Smith Road. As we mentioned in our discussion of flood damage reduction toolbox, channel diversions are one of our less commonly used tools. The Flood Control District chose channel diversion in this case because our feasibility study and preliminary engineering report showed that channel diversion was the best solution to achieve our project goals. $6.6 million in funding for this project was secured through a CDBG-DR grants from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This funding requires that the project being funded primarily benefits low and moderate income individuals. To meet that requirement, the Flood Control District surveyed the area and determined that the standard has been met. In addition to that national funding, $800,000 of funding will come from the 2018 bond program. An additional $4 million of funding will be provided by the Harris County Flood Resilience Trust. This slide shows the existing floodplain in and around the proposed project along Smith Road. In the darkest area, you can see the floodway, which is the part of the floodplain where the floodwaters run the deepest and fastest. The next darkest shade of blue is the 1% or 100-year floodplain, and the lightest shade is the 0.2% or 500-year floodplain. The land within the 100-year floodplain has a 1% annual chance of flooding during a storm event, and the 500-year floodplain has a 0.2% chance of flooding during a storm event. Now, flooding one year does not mean that the area is less likely to flood the next year. As you can see from the map of existing conditions, the area around Smith Road is within the 100-year floodplain. This project will remove the floodplain from those approximately 70 structures in the area from the 10% or 10-year floodplain and reduce the inundation area. I will now discuss the project in greater detail. This project will provide an alternative route for excess water to flow along Smith Road. Per our project description, we propose placing an 84-inch concrete pipe along the west side of Smith Road and along Dory Lee Lane to improve channel flow. In order to install the concrete pipe, the construction will need access to the portion of driveways within the public right-of-way along Smith Road. During the construction period, these portion of driveways within the right-of-way will be removed and mailboxes will be temporarily relocated. After construction progresses to different portions of the project area, we will replace the driveways along the west side of the Smith Road that we removed. In addition, we will replace the driveway culverts along the west side of Smith Road. For this project, we are coordinating closely with the Humble ISD district to address any impact on school bus routes along Smith Road. This project will have significant benefits for the structures in the impacted area. First, the project will reduce the potential for future erosion along P133 within Fall Creek subdivision. And the less erosion, the greater stormwater conveyance capacity of the tributary. This project will also reduce the structural flooding for approximately 70 structures west of Smith Road during a 10% annual chance or 10-year storm event. And finally, the project will result in better drainage along Smith Road. This drainage is critical for stormwater conveyance or the capacity of the tributary to convey stormwater into Greens Bayou. The less drainage, the more likely that a flood will inundate structures in the area. I will now move on to discussing the project outlook and our next steps in the project life cycle. While every flood damage reduction project is unique, they all have a common life cycle, which is shown here. Each project begins and ends with common and predictable milestones along the way. Whether a project moves forward from one stage to the next and how quickly depends on many factors, including the availability of funding, shifting community priorities, and other changing circumstances from year to year. As you can see in the project lifecycle graphic, we are in the construction stage of this project. During this stage, the project activity moves from the office to the construction sites. The construction includes a 6 to 8 week bidding process, resulting in the Harris County Commissioners Court awarding the construction contract to a contractor. This project's construction contract was awarded at the September 13th Commissioners Court meeting. Projects may involve several construction segments, so this project will only have one phase. During construction, the Flood Control District will notify the public about common disruptions like road and bridge closures. This slide outlines the anticipated timing for this project. In fall of 2021, we completed our final design for this project. We announced that we had received the CDBG DR grants in January of 2022. And we are now beginning our construction as of winter 2022/2023, and we expect that construction will end in the fall of 2023. Construction will result in several impacts to the property owners along Smith Road, including the removal and replacement of the mailboxes on the west side of Smith Road. Driveways and culverts will also be temporarily removed and replaced once crews work in that particular area. Residents who have a disruption to their mailbox and/or driveway will be provided with a temporary mailbox and a place to park for the duration of their disruption. Due to construction, Smith Road will also see periodic lane closures, and any time that a lane is closed, a flagger will be on site to direct traffic. At this time, we do not know how long or when any particular driveway or mailbox will be impacted. Generally speaking, our construction teams do work in the segments along the project area, meaning that disruptions may be no longer than 2 weeks or possibly last the length of construction. However, that's not always the case. Our construction crews will keep all residents and community partners in the loop on the progress of the project and more specific timing of individual impacts. We also want residents to be aware that another construction project located at a nearby subdivision will take place during the same timeframe as this project. This construction activity is unrelated to the flood control district's project. However, as available, we will provide updates on the timing of that project as well. For this project, we are coordinating closely with the Humble Independent School District to address any impact on school bus routes along Smith Road. We are also collaborating closely with the Office of Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis to ensure that residents are aware of the construction impacts on the community and engage with the community. In our anticipated construction timing, we expect to begin construction this winter. It's important to note that this timing is preliminary and will depend on how quickly the construction team moves along the project area. One thing that is certain is that construction will begin on the downstream portion of the project area, which is along Dory Lee Lane, and will last several months before construction moves to the Smith Road portion of the project. So residents along Smith Road may see heavy trucks moving up and down Smith Road at the start of construction, but we do not expect any impacts to resident driveways and mailboxes to begin until we start construction along Smith Road sometime next spring. Those with property backing up to Dory Lee Lane will see construction activity in the easement. We are actively seeking community engagement in the construction process and invite that all comments be directed to the Flood Control District during this meeting or afterwards. And we welcome any additional comments which can be submitted at our website at hcfcd.org/C-31. Like I have mentioned throughout this presentation, we really want to keep you all informed on the progress of the project and when you may see construction impacts. We will be sending periodic updates via email during construction, and we are happy to answer any questions you might have. I will now turn the program back over to Robert to kick off the Q&A portion. Robert?
Thanks, Melissa. Before we move into the Q&A, I want to share a quick reminder that we're looking for your input. We'd love to hear from you on this and other projects moving forward across Harris County. As a reminder, your input is critical as we continue to develop project plans for this and other flood risk reduction efforts. All comments and questions received this evening will be considered as we develop plans for this effort, but the conversation doesn't end here. To learn more about this project, ask questions, and sign up for our mailing list, please visit hcfcd.org/C31. As a reminder, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. Submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. Submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C31, or submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2490. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. Information from this meeting and a recording of the live stream will be available on the Flood Control District's website and YouTube channel. Joining Melissa for our Q&A session tonight are Tawana and Andrew with the project team. Now it's time to take some of your questions. All right, our first question of the evening is for Tawana. Tawana, what is the project's purpose?
The project has 3 main goals. First, the project will reduce flood risk along Smith Road. Second, the project will reduce the potential for future erosion along tributary P133-00-00 by reducing flow within the channel. And then finally, the project will improve drainage along Smith Road.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, where is the project area?
The project is located in northern Harris County near the Fall Creek subdivision.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And this next question is also for you. Timothy comments that he lives on the east end of the East X Oaks subdivision, and starting about 10 years ago, they've had ongoing flooding issues. His question is, what will the proposed improvements do to change the drainage in their neighborhood? And can they expect this investment to help them sleep at night whenever it rains?
What subdivision is it?
It is the East X Oaks subdivision.
That is not the part of our project. I don't believe it.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. This next question is for Melissa. How does the flood control district find out about areas that are flooding, and how are these areas prioritized?
That's a very good question. There's a couple of ways. We do have gauges throughout Harris County that we keep track of every time it rains. We have historical databases that are connected with these rain gauges. So we really know very accurately how much rain falls in certain areas of town and at what point does the rainfall come outside of our banks. So we know which areas tend to flood more often than others. Another thing that we've done is prior to the 2018 bond election, we held several meetings, one in each watershed, and actually engaged with the community. We also took public input via our website and came up with a list of projects really based on what communities were saying, because no one knows the neighborhoods like the people who live in them. So anytime in the future, if you do have information you'd like to get to us, we welcome those kind of comments, and we will continue to keep track of issues. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Melissa. I just want to reiterate that there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C31, or you can submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2490. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. And additionally, any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. All right, our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, Michelle asks, what specifically will be done to P133 through Fall Creek? Is there a plan to cut the trees along P133? Andrew, you are muted.
Sorry, I was muted. No, we're not cutting any trees along the P133 channel.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Our next question would be also for Andrew. Sarah also wants to know about clear cutting trees along P133 and if this will prevent erosion in the future.
No, we're not cutting any trees along the P133 channel. As she mentioned, yes, they'll help erosion. It won't stop the erosion. So again, this project is about diversion regarding to slow down the erosion along the P133.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Yes.
Our next question is for Tawana. How will the project impact my flood risk or a given resident's flood risk?
The project will reduce flood risk for structures in Greens Bayou by improving overall drainage along Smith Road. Additionally, the project will reduce the potential for future erosion along P133 within Fall Creek subdivision, thereby increasing the stormwater conveyance and lowering flood risk. And lastly, the project will reduce the risk of structural flooding for approximately 70 structures west of Smith Road during a 10% annual chance or 10-year storm event.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, how was the project funded?
The flood control district received a grant of 6.6 million for community development block grant for disaster recovery from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to fund the portion of the construction. The remaining funding needs are met by local funding.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate that there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. Submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C31, or submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2490. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. And any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. All right. Our next question is for Tawana. Tawana, Cheryl asks if construction accommodations will be made for those with health and medical needs.
The project will make accommodations for access to the property during construction. As mentioned earlier, some driveways will be disrupted, but those driveways that are disrupted, we will maintain access to the property during construction. So we're not particularly addressing health and medical needs, but each resident will be able to access their property during construction. There may be short periods of time when the driveway is disrupted, but we will coordinate with the contractor and reach out, to the residents if there is any particular reason why some special accommodations need to be made. We'll look into that and get with that particular property owner at the appropriate time. But for right now, we plan on maintaining access to the extent possible with short interruptions, and then address on an as-needed basis what access needs to be made during those periods when the driveway is disrupted.
All right, thank you, Tawana.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is for Melissa. Melissa, Timothy is asking once again about Eastex Oaks. Can you explain how this project will affect that area and the flooding that is affecting it?
I'm sorry, Timothy, I'm not 100% sure exactly where Eastex Oaks is in relationship to this project. I do know that Fall Creek is adjacent to that, but I would love to follow up with you after this meeting to answer your question appropriately.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, when and where will construction start?
Construction will begin this winter. We anticipate beginning construction in November, and we'll update residents as soon as the project starts, date is confirmed. The construction will first take place on the downstream portion of the project area along Dory Lane, which will last several months. After the Dory Lane portion has been completed. Construction will begin along Smith Road.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next question is for Tawana. Tawana, how long will construction last?
As Andrew mentioned, it's going to start this winter, and then construction will end in fall of 2023. But this is just an estimate, and it's preliminary at the time. At this time, it depends on the construction team's progress along the project area.
Thank you, Tawana. Our next question is for Melissa. Melissa, how will construction affect me or a given resident during the Dory Lee Lane portion of the project?
Sure. Construction teams will need to access driveways within the right-of-way along Smith Road in order to install the concrete pipe. During the first part of construction along Dory Lee Lane, residents in that area might notice heavy trucks moving up and down Smith Road. Those with property backing up directly to Dory Lee Lane will also see construction activity in that easement there, but we don't anticipate any other impacts.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Our next question is for Tawana. Tawana, how will construction impact me or a given resident during the Smith Road portion of the project?
The Smith Road property owners will be affected by the removal and replacement of mailboxes, and then the portion of driveways within the right-of-way and culverts on the west side of Smith Road will also be impacting.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Our next question is for Melissa. How will residents in the area will get mail during construction, and where will they park?
We will be providing temporary, or the contractor will be providing you with temporary mailboxes and a temporary place to park while they're working in the areas affected at your properties.
Thank you, Melissa. And we just want to note that we have received several voicemails from several callers who are phoning in by phone. We just want to let you know that we will follow up with you after this meeting and get to your questions as appropriate. All right. Our next question is for Tawana. How long will the impacts of this given project last?
We are not exactly sure how long they will last. At this time, we don't know or when any specific driveway or mailbox will be affected. We don't know that yet. In general, our construction teams work in segments along the project, meaning that disruptions could be limited to 2 weeks or possibly last the length of construction. However, that is not a guarantee. It depends on the needs of this project and construction team. So we'll know more about that later, but at this time, we don't have an exact time, but you can always get updates on the project and we'll give you information about where to get updates.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, Michelle asks, will P133 be dredged or have any major construction?
Okay, this project it's a diversion project to P133. We are not doing any maintenance or repair along P133 channel. Our project is underground 84-inch man-made, RCP to divert, some of the flow from the P133 from the upstream to downstream of P133. So we are not doing any maintenance. We're not cutting any trees. We're not doing any activities along the P133 within this project. It might be some other projects down the road, but not in this project.
Thank you, Andrew. And Once again, I would just like to reiterate that there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. Submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C31, or submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2490. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. All right, our next question is for Tawana. Tawana, how will my driveway be replaced?
The portion of the driveways that is removed will be replaced with like-kind material. For example, a gravel driveway that is removed for construction will be replaced with a gravel driveway.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Our next question is for Andrew. Sorry, we have a bit of a technical difficulty. Yes, Andrew, where can residents give feedback about this project?
All comments and questions received this evening will be considered as we develop plans for this effort. So to share your feedback or ask questions after this meeting, we encourage you to visit Harris County Flood Control District, known as hcfcd.org/C-31.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Our next question is for Tawana. Tawana, Cheryl asks, will our cars and mail be protected during construction?
As we mentioned earlier, mailboxes along Smith Road will be relocated. And so your mail should be as secure as it was before, because we will have a temporary location for mailboxes. As far as the cars are concerned, our construction contractor will have to implement means and methods to control the dust if you're concerned about dust. Now, if there are some other concerns, please feel free to drop those into the chat box, or provide the question to hcfcd.org/C-31, and we will get back with you later.
All right, thank you, Tawana. Our next question, or topic rather, is from Melissa. Melissa, can you go back over the jurisdiction related to this project, as we are getting a lot of questions on work within the neighborhood?
Sure, and I think this probably, or at least I hope this will address Timothy's question about the neighborhood drainage. Can you direct the slides to slide number 9, please? Perfect. All right, so this slide here, on the left, this slide illustrates the various jurisdictions in the area that work towards playing roles in flood risk reduction. So inside the neighborhoods, it's as shown on the left side of this illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from your homes and your streets. So the drainage inside your neighborhood, under the roadways in front of your house directly, are usually the responsibility of the underlying municipality, usually a city or a MUD. As that drainage moves further away from your house, once it gets over to the right side of the illustration and is into a larger bayou or basin or channel, that is what the flood control owns and maintains. So what we're talking about today, we're talking about the Smith Road diversion, which has to do with the larger drainage, not necessarily directly in front of your neighborhood. And Timothy, we will follow up with you. I just want to make sure I look at a map before I answer anything specific about subdivision names.
Thank you so much, Melissa. The next question is also for you. How else could construction impact the area's residents?
Yeah, the construction teams will need to periodically close lanes. We are installing an 84-inch concrete pipe under Smith Road. So there will be some traffic disruptions, but whenever a lane closure is needed, a flagger will be on site to direct traffic.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Our next question is for Andrew. Andrew, how will construction impact local schools?
For this project, we are coordinating closely with the Humble Independent School District to address any impact on the school bus routes along the Smith Road.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. All right. Our next question is for Melissa. Melissa, how long will the impacts last?
Sorry, I was muted. At this time, we don't know exactly how long or whenever or when exactly any specific driveway or mailbox will be affected. In general, our construction teams tend to work in segments along the project, meaning that disruptions could be in one area at one time and move accordingly. Excuse me. But those disruptions are usually limited to about 2 weeks. It could possibly last the entire length of construction. However, that's not a guarantee and just really depends on the needs of this project and the construction team.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Our next question is for Tawana. Tawana, can you reiterate once again, where can someone give feedback about this project?
Sure. All comments and questions received this evening will be considered as we develop plans for this effort. And to share feedback or questions related to the meeting, we encourage you to visit hcfcd.org/C-31. I'll repeat that again, hcfcd.org/C-31.
Thank you, Tawana. And just to keep more questions coming in this evening, I just want to reiterate once again, there are 3 ways to submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website at hcfcd.org/C31, or you can submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801, utilizing meeting code 2490. If you are joining us via phone tonight, please press star to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. Also, information from this meeting and a recording of this live stream will be available on the Flood Control District's website and YouTube channel. All right. Melissa, could we hand it back over to you? If we could go over some more of the information and literature related to this, just to give everyone an even better idea of this project and what it entails.
Sure. Why don't we start on, if you could change it to slide 22. So I'll talk a little bit more about the project outlook and our next step in the project life cycle. While every flood damage reduction project is unique, they all have a common life cycle, which is shown here. Each project begins and ends with common and predictable milestones along the way. Whether a project moves forward from one stage to the next and how quickly depends on several factors, including the availability of funding, shifting community priorities, and other changing circumstances from year to year. As you can see in this project lifecycle graphic, we're in the construction stage of this project. During this stage, the project activity is moving from the office to the construction site. The construction includes a 6 to 8 week bidding process, resulting in the Harris County Commissioners Court awarding the construction contract to a contractor. This project's construction contract was awarded at the September 13th Commissioner Court meeting. Projects may involve several construction segments, though this project will only have one phase. During construction, the Flood Control District will notify the public about common disruptions like road and bridge closures. This slide outlines the anticipated timing for this project. Back in fall of 2021, we completed the final design for the project, and then we announced that we had received the CDBG DR grant in January of this year. And we're now beginning our construction as of this winter, and we expect construction to be completed in fall of 2023. Construction will result in several impacts to the property owners along Smith Road, including the removal and replacement of the mailboxes on the west side of Smith Road. Driveways and culverts will also be temporarily removed and replaced once crews finish work in that repair area. Residents who have a disruption to their mailbox and or driveway will be provided with a temporary mailbox and a place to park for the duration of their disruption. Due to construction, Smith Road will also see periodic lane closures. Anytime that a lane is closed, a flagger will be on site to direct the traffic. At this time, we don't know exactly how long or when any particular driveway or mailbox will be impacted. Generally speaking, our construction teams do the work in segments along the project area, meaning that disruptions may be no longer than 2 weeks or possibly less the length of construction. However, that's just not always the case. Our construction crews will keep all residents and our community partners in the loop on the progress of the project and more specific timing of the individual impacts. We also want all residents to be aware that another construction project located at a nearby subdivision will take place during the same timeframe as this project. This construction activity is unrelated to the Flood Control District's project. However, as available, we will provide updates on the timing of that project as well. For this project, we're coordinating closely with the Humble Independent School District to address any impact on school bus routes along Smith Road. And we're also collaborating closely with the Office of Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis to ensure that residents are aware of the construction impacts on the community and engage with the community. In our anticipated construction timing, we expect to begin construction this winter. It's important to note that this timing is preliminary and will depend on how quickly the construction team moves along the project area. One thing that is certain is that construction will begin on the downstream portion of the project, which is along Dory Lee Lane, and last several months before construction moves on to the Smith Road portion of the project. Residents along Smith Road may see heavy trucks moving up and down Smith Road at the start of construction, but we do not expect any impacts to resident driveways and mailboxes to begin until we start construction along Smith Road, which should be sometime next spring. Those with property backing up to Dory Lee Lane will see construction activity in the easement. And we are actively seeking community engagement in the construction progress and invite that all comments be directed to the Flood Control District during this meeting or afterwards. We welcome additional comments, which can be submitted at our website at hcfcd.org/C-31. We will send periodic updates via email during construction, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this evening. I would like to share one final reminder that the comment period associated with this meeting runs through November 17th. but we're always looking for your input and engagement. I would like to very much thank everybody for their questions this evening, and also to Margaret, Michael, and Timothy. We will be following up with you after the meeting on your specific questions to give you more information about how this project relates to you and the matters that you wish to discuss. We also encourage everyone to get flood insurance as flood season in Harris County runs year round. Thank you again for joining us this evening and for providing your input on this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward. Stay safe.